And welcome into Poke the Bear episode 67, Connor. 67. You know who that is? That's Benoit Pouliot, legend, Bruins
Legend.
1 year legend, who actually wasn't too bad in his
He was
time
pretty
here, if I
good.
remember right. He
He
was
also had
fine.
that filthy goal. Wasn't it like New Year's Day or something? It was like around the holiday. Remember that nasty like between the legs goal came out of nowhere? Which like again he was like a first round pick, right? Remember like was he on Montreal and I think he like got
Yes,
into a
I know what you're talking
scrum
about.
and that guy was just burying the guy. He's like former like top 10 pick doing nothing now, and then he like signed with the Bruins like 5 months later.
Well, I think what it was Ference was coming back on an icing, and Pouliot like launched himself, tried to hit him from behind, and Edwards went nuts. Jack went
Yes.
just bananas on Benoit Pouliot, and then there was a fight, and it was a whole big thing. But yeah, it was. I think that nasty goal was, if I remember right, against the Panthers. Um, I could be wrong here, and it was like a 7-0 game. I could be completely wrong. My
Mm.
memory could be messing me up, but he was actually good. It was a good third line. It was like him, Peverly, and Kelly, I believe, on that 2011-2012 team. Wow, the things I remember. But yeah, Benoit Pouliot was a Bruin. He was a Bruin for a little bit, number 67, and that is that. But I'm Evan Marinofsky. That's Connor Ryan. Connor, how you doing?
Evan, doing well. How you doing?
I'm doing great. It is it's quite the day, and we'll dive into our first story because we mentioned the Panthers. We'll dive right in. The Bruins played the Panthers on Wednesday night. We are recording this on Thursday, so apologies in advance. We will not be touching on the Hurricanes game at all. It's that time of year again. Sorry, guys. And that I put that on the schedule makers. I don't put that on us. That is on the schedule makers for making that be the case. But uh, Wednesday night, Bruins play the Panthers. We'll get to the game itself later on, but obviously we want to start off with the biggest story in hockey, which is the Kyle Beach Blackhawks story, and how in the hell Joel Quenneville was on the bench on Wednesday night. That is one of the most shameful things I have ever seen. And I was thinking today, like this whole story, this whole just awful story um, with Kyle Beach might be the most shameful thing the NHL has had happen in my lifetime. At least maybe I'm missing something, but I think it is. And then having Quenneville out on the bench and then not speak to the media afterwards. I don't know. I just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Blows my mind. What do you
It,
think?
it was absolutely embarrassing. I mean, to like to have the audacity to go out there and decide to coach, like whether it be optics or just plain friggin' common sense of, after all this stuff happens, after Kyle Beach comes forward, courageously and tells his story of all this horrible shit in which the Blackhawks, the NHL, the NHLPA, all these different parties with so many people involved all failed him time after time. To have that happen and then to have Joe Quenneville coach that game as if it was no different from any other early October game was just absolutely embarrassing. Tone deaf, pick your word. There's about 10, 20 different words you can use to describe that decision. Just whether it be the Panthers not deciding to pull the plug right away, which they should have after all that stuff came out, to the NHL not stepping in. And, yeah, Joe Quenneville's talking to Gary Bettman actually right now as you record. So I hope that by the time this drops tomorrow, that his ass will already be fired from the Panthers. I hope that for the first time we are recording something that does not that comes out after we record. Hope this gets dated in some respects because hopefully he is without a job and kicked to the curb by the time this drops. Because, as you said, just tone deaf, embarrassing, disgusting for everything Quenneville has done. I mean, you whether it be the details that came from the investigation, whether it be um, Kyle Beach's own comments during that TSN interview of how there's absolutely no way that Joe Quenneville can deny that he didn't know what was going on. I mean, Beach pretty much said that, these meetings were in Quenneville's office. He was well aware of these things. It's not like whatever Quenneville said back in the summer that he had no idea of these things happening. I mean, that's pretty damning, testimony results, what have you, that the fact that he's still able to coach that game, it's just embarrassing. And as you said, to then, you know, deciding to coach that game. If you can sit and coach that game, then you can, face the music and deal with some questions afterwards and be held accountable. The fact that he couldn't do that, Is it surprising? Considering all we've read and found out over the last couple of days, no. 'Cause that's some weak ass shit, and the fact that he's able to get away with that, it's just embarrassing, and it just tells you everything you need to know about him and the multiple other systems that failed Kyle Beach throughout this last decade. I mean, it's just as you said, it's a black mark on not just the Blackhawks, but on the NHL, the NHLPA, the game of hockey, all that stuff. It's disgusting.
Easiest call in the world for the Panthers to just say, you know what, Q, you're not coaching tonight. Well, you can talk to the commissioner tomorrow, but for now, we're gonna say you're not coaching tonight. We'll make an assistant the head coach for right now, and we'll deal with this tomorrow. But for this game, you are not coaching. Now, I think you should never coach again, and I think most people think that. But in the moment, that's the easy move, and I don't get it. And we can go down the list of all the ways in which this league dropped the ball every time. I don't think there was one thing where I was like, oh, that was good. They did the right thing there. No, even down to NHL.com. Oh my God. Like, I don't understand. And you can go through the Taves comments. I mean, again, these teams have PR staffs. They have staffs for public relations. You would think they just sent Jonathan Taves out there, like, oh, go talk to the media. Have fun out there, buddy. Like, it is incredible to me. And I can tell you, I think how the Panthers might look at this with the Quenneville situation and think, well, we're undefeated. We have a good team. We have a legit core, which we'll get to later for the first time in years. All these things, the guys like Q. I'm sorry. That team is so freaking good. The lamp above my computer right now could coach that team and it would still be good. It is promote an assistant. Like, promote an assistant. It's not that difficult. It's unbelievable to me how this has gone. And it's, again, what's sad is it's not surprising.
No, and again, as you said with the Panthers, yeah, maybe Quenville's a good coach. Maybe the players like him. Sounds like another similar scenario in which you prioritize winning over doing the right fucking thing, which sounds
Correct.
awfully familiar to what played out about 10 years ago. And it's again, it's I think the most disheartening thing of all of it and all the horrible, horrifying details that came out in that report is just the systematic failure across so many people, across so many systems. I mean, from the mental skills coach who put the onus on Beach for being in that position, which is
That was
disgusting.
insidious. That
Disgusting,
was
yeah.
horrible.
Between that to the failures of the coaching staff, the failures of the team itself, Donald Fair and NHLPA absolutely dropping the ball and kicking him to the curb, which courageous of Donald Fair to release a statement. I want to say it was 11:53 p.m. when they dropped that bullshit statement. Good
Love
job,
it.
guys. So between that, the players themselves, I mean, you heard Beach in the interview talking about that he had to deal with, the fact that everyone in that room knew about it. That the next year he had to deal with, he was getting homophobic, slurs thrown his way, all this stuff. Uh, a failure on the players themselves. I mean, as you said, uh, Jonathan Tays and Patrick Kane's comments yesterday were just absolutely embarrassing. I mean, Patrick Kane saying he didn't know that Beach was the John Doe in that scenario. That Jonathan Tays, even if it's a BS, PR laden response, the fact that he's, defending, Bowman and, trying to like toe the line there, like this is not the time to toe the line when this, reprehensible stuff happened. Like, this is not the time at all. So whether it be, yeah, the league itself, that organization, which seems like it has a whole bunch of rot in its franchise now, to the players, everything. There should be multiple barriers and systems in place to support these players when this stuff happens, and every single one of them failed Kyle Beach. And for him to, come forward and do that interview says a lot about him. How hopefully it will help others maybe come forward. Going forward with this because I'm sure it's far from the only. It's not the only time this has happened to a player, and I think it just says about him. I mean, I think the toughest part about that whole interview is the fact that he also, spent it apologizing to that 16-year-old kid in Michigan who was also assaulted by Brad Aldrich. This is a guy who finally comes forth. He exposes all these guys, and he still feels like he didn't do enough when he's done more than anyone could have ever asked for doing this. And speaking out and putting these people in the crosshairs for all this horrible stuff that they've done, not just to him in his career, but to the game of hockey for what has happened. So uh, all the commendation to Beach and what it took for him to speak out on this. But as you said, it's just embarrassing, disgusting. Again, pick your word. Any word can probably fit in for how this has been. I mean, it's just an ugly systematic failure at almost every level of this game, and it's disheartening to say the least.
Oh, it's awful. And again, also a great interview by Rick Westhead.
Yes.
Good questions, and the way he conducted the interview was great, and good reporting by Katie Strang and all the Chicago Blackhawks current beat writers. And it's funny you mentioned Kane and Taves, and Mark Lazarus, who's I believe he covers the Blackhawks for the Athletic, had a tweet last night. He said, "I get Taves and Kane wanting to be loyal to people who played a big role in their lives and careers, and with whom they've had meaningful friendships and business relationships. I really do. But heaping praise on Bowman and McIsaac right now is not a great look." Yeah, that sums it
Yeah.
up. I get it. You work with guys forever. You feel loyal to them, but when things like this come out, you don't defend them because that is not you don't that is reprehensible. And there's again, and you said this. There's so many ways they drop the ball here, and I just it's such a dark mark, and I don't even know. I mean, again, and we're in the middle. We're still in the middle of this,
Yeah.
so it's so bad. And to see the way in which so much for Jonathan Taves being such a great captain, huh? So much for him being captain serious, more like captain look the other way. I mean, good lord. So it's just it's awful. It is awful. And as you said, courageous as anything for Kyle Beach to come out and to do what he did. Um, and what's crazy is, and this I saw this somewhere else. This was over a video coach. This wasn't even like a star player. This wasn't a prominent coach. It wasn't a prominent GM. This was the freaking 27-year-old video coach. And I'm not. What I'm trying to say is that should be the easiest goodbye you've ever given. It's a video coach. I'm not trying to, demean what a video coach does. They're very important to the team and stuff. But he's been with the team for 2 years. I think he could find someone else to clip the freaking videos.
And
So,
also the fact that he got his day with the cup, he was still around even after
oh
everyone
yes,
knew what
also
this
that.
was. Like it's disgusting. Like the fact it's one thing also like shame on the Blackhawks for again prioritizing winning over the well-being of one of your own freaking players, regardless what the situation is. You put him and his life on the back burner to win a cup, just for the distraction part of it, right? Like it's that already is disgusting. But the fact that then, after all this happened, after again, it's not like. There's been other Blackhawks players, not just Beach, who were pretty much like, yeah, everyone knew by May, June what had happened. Like this wasn't like a thing that, there was whispers of it. Like this was a thing. After all that, Aldridge still gets his day with the cup, still gets his name printed on the cup, is still around the team. It's disgusting. And then the fact that he gets, the sign off to, get a letter, pretty much a letter of recommendation to go elsewhere. And he ends up, NTDP, Miami University, and then he ends up, at Hode, Michigan, and another person is victimized by him. It's disgusting. It's shame on the Blackhawks, shame on multiple individuals, all who either uh, let this happen or look the other way. Either whichever way you look at it, it's disgusting.
It just comes down to the over prioritization of winning in sports sometimes is so bad that they would be willing to sweep this under the rug. That is incredible to me. And it's gross. This whole thing is disgusting. And again, all the props in the world to Kyle Beach for actually coming out and doing that interview and doing it virtually. I thought they would have maybe done it in person. I know he's overseas playing, so obviously you really can't do it. And you want to get it out quick. But yeah, the whole thing, it makes me sick. It really does. And the Blackhawks should be just ashamed. That place should be completely cleaned house. And I know they have a little bit, but what a shameful organization. Shameful. And the Panthers too. I mean, my God. Again, easiest move in the world. Just take Quenneville off the bench. Come on. Like, and again, you want to be such a players coach protecting your players. Not sure what Quenneville did in 2010 was exactly protecting his players.
No, far
So
from it.
far from it. So it's just it's so sad. And again, Kyle Beach, all the props in the world to him for what he did. But yeah, just awful. Obviously, we'll have more as time goes along. We'll have more. I keep checking my phone for the Chris
No.
Johnston or Elliot Friedman. It's funny actually when you were talking earlier or a little while ago, I got a notification that Chris Johnson tweeted, and I was like, "Oh, is this it? Is this it?" And it was.
Believe me,
It
I
was.
would
It
love
was.
to have that pop up on our feed by the time this podcast is over, and
We can
hopefully it
have a
will be.
We can have a Joel Quenneville firing celebration party, so to
Yeah.
speak. Um, Anyways, so let's talk a little bit about last night's or Wednesday night's game against the Panthers. A lot of people panicking. A lot of people panicking about the loss. Obviously, not a good loss. The Bruins did not look good at all. But I think people have to remember it's shortly into the season. I wouldn't panic on this loss itself. I would, however, there's one spot I would panic, and that's long term. Because let me tell you something. Aside from that horrendous head coach down there, that's a good freaking team. That's a really good team. And you wrote this after the game, but they look a hell of a lot like the Bruins of about a decade ago with the core. They have, they have franchise defensemen. They have two solid goalies in net. Bobrovsky's killing it right now. I still think that contract blows, but that's still, he's doing his thing. And up front, they are loaded. Do you agree? Well, you do. You wrote this. You wrote that. Never mind. You wrote this that the Panthers are pretty poised to kind of crush the Bruins' dreams of another cup, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it's just adding another roadblock in the way for the Bruins. As much as I think people want to talk about Toronto getting off to, I think it was a 3-4-1 start. Tampa Bay's obviously they're without Kucherov right now, but they've been kind of sleepwalking a little bit through the start of the season. I think it's fair to assume that they're going to be in the mix. They're going to be in the way of the Bruins by the time the playoffs roll around. I think that's a pretty fair assumption to make, but it gets even more complicated when you add the Panthers in, who look like maybe the biggest threat in the Atlantic. I mean, you kind of talked about it, but if you look at like the blueprint of like a cup contending roster, they kind of have all of it, right? I mean, like maybe they don't have the overall playoff experience, but they've got plenty of scoring depth. I mean, you've got guys like Sam Reinhart, Jonathan Huberdeau, Duclair, all these guys in like middle six roles. Like they've already got, I think Barkov or Hagee are on the top line, so they're already set there. You've got active decor. I mean, I think Forsling already has like 7 points in their games, and he's not even their featured guy. Like Zach Blad. You've got a bigger defenseman in Gudas. You've got Mackenzie Weegar, who might be one of the more. He's, I think, the new like Jacob Slavin of like he's super talented, very effective, but no one really pays attention to him. Like I think Weegar's that kind of next guy.
He did get dangled by Pastrnak.
He did get dangled by Pastrnak, but as a whole, he has some tough times against the Bruins. Remember, he got into that fight with Achari.
Oh,
and he got pummeled in that game. So,
and then did you ever hear the story of when Achari went to the Panthers of how he like mixed with the number?
Great story. But you look at that, they've got some size in the bottom six. I mean, when Achari gets back healthy, he's a key piece to that team. Marshman, they've got Hornquist is a pain to play against, especially in the playoffs. And then you look at their goaltending. I mean, I think there's obviously some skepticism about Bobrovsky, but he's also a guy who's a couple of Vezinas in his past. He's still a very good goalie if he gets hot. I mean, you saw in that game, especially in the third when the Bruins kind of made a push, he kind of stood tall. And if he doesn't do well, you've got Spencer Knight, who pretty good backup option there, right? I mean, I had him as my pick for the Calder. He hasn't really played that much yet, but he's a good fallback. So,
a good player from Chestnut Hill College.
That is true. Chestnut Hill, Newton Community College.
Newton Community College, excuse me.
But I mean, you look at as you kind of mentioned, they do remind me of kind of like that 2010 Bruins, where I mean they've got all the makings of a team that should be a problem for a long, long time, and they've got talent in place. It's all locked in. They're all really young. I mean, I think their top 10 scorers right now, at least, their average age is 25 years old. I think Huberdeau's the oldest, and he's 28. And then you've got a whole bunch of 25, 26-year-old guys in their prime who are all signed, locked up. Good defense. Even younger guys in the pipeline, like Knight, is only going to get better. Anton Lundell, who didn't play on Wednesday, he's 20 years old. And he's got 5 points in 5 games. Yeah, they remind me quite a bit about the Bruins of just how they're built and how it seems like they're building a sustainable powerhouse for a long time, which is not what the Bruins want to see. Like they would rather it be Florida still rebuilding, and you got Toronto in your way, which I don't think really frightens a lot of Bruins fans, and a Tampa Bay team that maybe is worn down from winning 2 cups in a row. Like you'd like to have them on the downturn as you try to make the most of these last couple of years you have. Now all of a sudden you got Florida coming onto the scene and they look pretty good. And who knows? I mean, a lot can change over the course of a season. Hopefully they will not have a head coach later on. But as you said, I think they would be just fine with whoever else is behind the bench for them. But we'll see. You get to the playoffs. Sometimes it takes these teams a few years to, get that playoff experience, even though they kind of pushed Tampa in that first round series last year, but not the development you want to see. Like it's one thing if, let's say, we're 2-3 years down the road and the Bruins are still clinging on to trying to go on a run. You've got Ottawa and Detroit and these teams that are hopefully have taken a next step. Florida's here right now, and they're only going to get better. Like it doesn't make it any easier for the Bruins getting out of the Atlantic if Florida's playing like this.
I was just about to say that Detroit team that's a good core for the future, and the Senators, if they can keep their guys there, should also be pretty good down the line. So yeah, I mean the Bruins seem like a team that is trending kind of down. I don't think this is a secret to anybody, but I think they are, because again the drafting has been not great, which that's a conversation we've had many times. So I'm not going to bore you with that. You didn't even mention the best offensive player the Panthers have. UMass alum Frank Petrano. How do you miss that? Come on.
I'm very sorry, Evan.
It's disrespectful as anything. Greatest shot in the league. But yeah, I mean that team is deep. Sam Bennett on the second line as the center.
He's been great.
Great. Yeah. They have Sam Reinhart too, who's on the wing, who's normally a center. So
they've also just had so many guys just like breakthrough. Like Duclair looks reborn on that team. Bennett looks legit. Carter Verhaeghe came out of nowhere.
Nowhere.
He's been a monster for them.
Duclair was a monster with the Senators, and then they didn't re-sign him. Questionably. So Duclair was pretty good before, but he had a goal on Wednesday. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was nice.
Like just put it around Linus Olmark, one of the tallest guys, just put it right around him. So that team is really good. And I think it's no shame to lose to them. But you do have to wonder, how do you combat this team? I mean, what are the matchups you want? What do you need? And, truthfully, there were some moments Wednesday night where, again, defensively, it's just like, the net front coverage is not great. And again, I think it was the first goal. It was a 2-on-5. Like that can't, not only can those battles not be lost, but puck can't go in. There's so many instances there. What needs to change for the Bruins?
I mean, I think, as you said, as much as I think, if you want to spin a silver lining out of the game, I think a lot of the Bruins' flaws in the game were self-inflicted, or just like plays that, it wasn't like the Panthers were soundly beating them in all areas, but it's like 3 or 4 major breakdowns where I think the players don't even have to look at the tape. It's like, yeah, I fucked up. I mean, like, as you said, first goal, first goal, Forbort and Coyle lose a puck battle along the boards. 2 guys who shouldn't be losing puck battles, especially when they're both in there. No one, I think it's Howell and Clifton, don't pick up Marshman when he gets that shot off. And then I cannot pronounce the Finnish gentleman's name who scored the second goal for them, but buries it pretty much from his knees down low in the blue paint, as Clifton's kind of in no man's land at the net front there. So just complete kind of breakdowns that can't happen. And whether it's the Bruins have to find talent elsewhere or what have you, I mean, I think one area of concern has to be that third D pairing, in terms of especially Clifton on the right side. Good player in spurts, but he needs to show that he can be an everyday player if he's going to step into that role, and hasn't really shown it so far. Like, it's one thing I think the battle all the time with Clifton is make sure he doesn't get too assertive or too kind of caught up in the Cliffy hockey thing where he's taking himself out of the play. But it's just some of these flaws are just, simple defending, simple net front coverage that has been lacking. And that can't happen, especially if you want to put McAvoy and Grizzlick together and kind of get the most out of that line. You can't create so many other weak links further down the depth chart that it's going to lead to, your third pairing getting scored on twice and all these other, flaws. It can't happen, especially against a team like Florida.
No, I totally agree. But again, it's early in the season. We'll see what they bring out against the Hurricanes on Thursday night. We'll see if any of that stuff is switched around or changed. I'm incessantly updating my Twitter feed to see if Q gets the boot anytime soon. I can't wait till we end this, and like 5 minutes after, it's going to be like, comes out. It's like, damn, we're so close. Maybe we'll just stay here. We'll stay on for like another 2 hours, and we'll just do like our business. You guys can just keep us on. But like when it breaks, we're like, oh, we got breaking news.
We'll put the timestamp in.
Yeah, I'll put the timestamp in for people who want to fast forward to it. But anyways, yes, I'm very interested to see what they do tonight or Thursday night against the Hurricanes. Big game, still a big game, and then you get another measuring stick game on Saturday when they play the Panthers at home. So you can see sort of if the top lines cancel each other out again, if how they sort of do it. Because again, the Florida top line was not super
Yeah.
great on Wednesday night. So again, that's another silver lining, but you also need to produce too. Eric Holla, though, almost did score. That thing went like this close to
Yeah.
going in. It went through Bobrovsky's leg and went like that close into going in. Also,
And
before we go,
and DeBrusque had a
also,
good game too. So
yeah,
I thought he
DeBrusque was
did.
good. Yeah, DeBrusque was good. Coyle had the lip and he scored. So he was looking pretty savage out there. But there was one thing I want to talk about before we head off, and maybe this will extend the time a bit. But Nesson not traveling to games. I will say now, obviously, there was a story in the Athletic about this, about Jack Edwards not exactly loving it, which obviously no one's going to like it. And I was surprised not to hear Jack more mad about that on last night's broadcast. Like I feel like I never heard him be like, "Oh, I could have seen that if I was there" or something like that. I expected something out of that, but it's funny after reading that story and now having had away broadcast. Some teams have their away broadcasts or their broadcasts go on the road. Some teams are doing that, and after listening to those, and then listening to like Jack and Brick call it from a studio in Watertown, you notice a difference.
Oh yeah.
You notice a complete difference. I mean, it is night and day when you have like the TNT or the ESPN crew on the scene, or in comparison to Jack and Brick or any broadcasters being at home, and it hurts the product. And people know this. I don't think this is like this isn't unpopular, um, but it's tough to listen to because it's like they're watching the same thing I am, and it's sad that Nesson can't send that crew on the road because they do a good job and the broadcasters should be there. So should a lot of the writers, but that's a whole nother thing. But yes, I'm wondering if you kind of saw the same thing.
Yeah. No, it is very unfortunate. Is it surprising? Unfortunately, not. I
No,
think you saw
not
how it
at
was
all.
last year, and you saw. I think a lot of people can look at the bottom line and see the money that can be saved by not doing it, but at the detriment of the viewers and everyone else who's paying, these regional bills to get access to this network, and you're getting a subpar product off of just the bottom line of money, which is unfortunate because I do think it's noticeable. I mean, it's how much can these guys kind of glean from looking through the same screen you are, right? It's like they can't see what's going on behind the beyond just what's on the camera. You don't sometimes you miss guys who are heading to the bench. All these things that kind of play into it. It's unfortunate because again, it's at the detriment to the viewer, the fan who deserves to have people, boots on the ground at these places to get the most out of that coverage, especially if it's the broadcasting team. So it's surprising, no, but unfortunate, very.
This was not the breaking news I expected to see as we recorded this. Facebook has a new name called Meta. Meta. Like when Ron Artest became Meta World Peace. META. Facebook is changing their name to Meta.
Is it
What?
still going to be shitty?
Yeah, I would think so.
Yes.
So they can if Meta doesn't have town like groups, I'm all in on Meta. Let me tell you, I'm all in on Meta
Yes.
if they get a
You're
town
not on
Facebook group.
the Framingham community bulletin board.
Well, I think I'm in some of them, and I'm in like the neighborhood one, and it's just amazing to watch. People have been arguing for days over when to trick or treat, and people are going at each other over stuff, and it's great to watch. Very annoying though,
The
in theory.
the South Boston bulletin board one is really riveting because it's pretty much just cars being parked poorly and people being like, "Look at this asshole." That's all it is. It's not like anything constructive. Or it'll be like, "Look what I did," and it's like them writing a note on it, being like on the windshield, being like "fuck you," which is not good because if you're gonna write that on a note, you shouldn't then post it. Be like, "Look what I did."
Yeah.
It's not a lot of thinking put into these community bulletin boards. They can be entertaining, but they
Yes.
slowly kind of rot your brain.
And
So
then and then only in Boston will pick up those notes and be like, "Ha, so funny. This only happens in Boston."
yeah,
So,
it's hysterical. As
uh,
they tweet like a Jim and Pam clip from The Office. Noted
yeah.
Boston sitcom The Office.
Oh, everybody knows that was filmed in the Peru.
Yeah.
So, I mean, come on, let's be real here. Anyways, before we go, Connor, what can the people look forward to over at BSJ?
Yeah, we're gonna be obviously whether it be Thursday's game against the Hurricanes or Saturday's rematch against the Panthers. Pretty big measuring test for the Bruins going up against two legit teams, in the Eastern Conference. So we'll be breaking down all that stuff over at BSJ. So subscribe at BostonSportsJournal.com. If you want to follow me on Twitter, you can do that at ConorRyan_93.
Go do all that. That's Conor Ryan. I'm Evan Marinofsky. You Poke the Bear listeners. Have a great rest of your day.